actually. Cool. Looks like that's going. Come on, Wi-Fi. I need you to work. There we go. Cool. All right, so let me grab those. Mix it in. Grab both just in case. All right. Cool. Put these on. All right. Cool. So this is essentially just going to be a live stream of me answering any questions that you may have about tennis gear or anything like that. I have about an hour and a half until I need to head off to my match that I'm assuming it's going to be a match that I'm going to play. So I figured I might as well jump on live, and if there's any questions, let's talk. We'll have a few people jump in, and then of course, if anything, we can use the whiteboard and work through everything. Maybe a little bit hard to see, but I can at least write it down and make sure that I know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the right thing. Cool. So, with that being said, does anyone have any tennis-related questions or tennis equipment questions that they want answered? That's why we're here tonight, just to see what's going on and how I can help you. Let's see. Question number one, bro. Is there a lot from the question? Is there a lot of difference between a poly hybrid with VS gut or X1 biphase? Yes. So if you take those two hybrids against each other, and this is pretty much whether you have the gut in the main or you have the gut in the cross, or if you have the biphase in the main or the biphase in the cross, this is pretty much going to be the hybrid with the natural gut is essentially going to be a more enhanced version of the hybrid with the X1 biphase. So X1 biphase is very soft, it's very easy on the arm, it's very powerful, and not necessarily the most durable. However, the VS gut is going to just kind of enhance the features of biphase even more. So it'll be even more powerful, it'll be even more it'll be even better on your arm. And I would say the VS gut's also going to be a little bit more durable compared to the biphase itself too. So there's a reason that the natural gut does cost so much more. It's because it is much more effective, but it's also a lot harder to maintain because it's very easy for it to just lose its life. Like if you get it wet, it's very easy for natural gut to lose the actual just life that it is supposed to have, as well as if you leave it out in your car, if you leave your tennis bag in your car by accident or on purpose, the natural gut can very easily get ruined because it is a little bit more temperamental. The multi-filament, you can get away with doing that a little bit more, but and that's kind of where you don't have to pay as much, but you don't get as the same quality of string. Hopefully that helps. If you have another question, great name for this. Thank you for asking, and ask another one. Let's see. Big Chucks 99. Hello, sir or ma'am. I don't know. I can't see that picture. How are you doing? Glad you're here. Thanks for stopping by. Max Rides Bikes. Do I support in federal court law? What are you talking about, dude? This is about tennis. I have no clue what you're talking about. Anyone else have a question about tennis? All right. Cool. If not, well, what? Okay. The question, so VS Gut lasts longer than biphase, so in the long run it would be cheaper than buying a reel of X1. It would probably depend on if you've never tried natural gut, it would probably depend on how long it would take you to break it. So I probably wouldn't I would probably at least try using the polyester and the natural gut hybrid first, just to see what you think about it. Because if you don't even like the playability of it, then there's no reason for you to even continue to get the natural gut after you try it the first time. So I know Babolat has the half set of VS natural gut that you can purchase just on its own. So if you want to try that hybrid using the half set and then finding or just using a whatever polyester that you do prefer, that is, I would say, a better way to test first to see how long that lasts you, if you even like the feel of it. And then you can make the best decision whether or not to actually buy the reel of biphase, because the biphase reel will work well. And depending upon how long it takes you to break biphase versus how long it takes you to break natural gut, then that's where you can have a much more accurate representation and just kind of idea of which one to go with in terms of whether it may be more beneficial for you to buy the reel or to just do the actual half sets or just the full sets of natural gut, and then the stringer will just split it when they actually string the hybrid. I have a racket strung with VS Gut in the crosses, Hypergy in the mains. I broke the gut in a week. Okay, how long do you normally break biphase then? If you're breaking natural gut in a week, how long does it take you to break biphase in, say, that same hybrid then, the question? Well, I haven't tried biphase, but they told me it's the closest thing to natural gut. Okay, it is pretty similar. So I would say at that point, since you've tried the natural gut and Hyper G combo, I would just try Hyper G with biphase and go from there. See how long that lasts. If that lasts you longer than the week you got out of natural gut, as well as you think it's a pretty similar feel and you're okay with it, then at that point, I'd probably just go with the biphase reel, because it's going to last you about the same time, or if not a little longer, just because you figured that out from actually playing with it. So I would try Hypergy and biphase, and then that'll probably help you make the best decision possible for your specific scenario. Ernest, what's up? I don't know how to pronounce your name. Ibrahim, what are you doing, dude? You good? Yeah, man, I'm good. I'm just getting ready and prep. Well, not necessarily prep, but I have about an hour and 20 minutes now until I have to leave to go play what I'm assuming is a match here tonight. So I was like, well, I got time, so I might as well jump on live, answer any tennis questions that anyone may have, see what's going on. So like I said, I don't know how to pronounce this, but Ibrahim, if you have a question about tennis gear or anything and you want it answered, drop it below, and we can go from there. Ernest, again, what's up, man? Good to see you. I missed you on the last live. If you were here, I didn't get to talk with you, but I'm glad you're here this time, buddy. Let's see. The question, is it a league match? No, it's not a league match. This is just with a friend of mine that I met actually working at the store that I normally work at. I helped him with his string setup for the rackets that he was using, and we just got talking, and then randomly enough, we both found out we actually belong to the same tennis club. And so we saw each other there, and we were like, oh, hey, what's up? And I was like, hey, how are you? And he was telling me how the setup was working for him. I was like, that's great. And then eventually, we actually played one time before this, because we were just like, well, let's get together. Let's have a match. And we're like, okay, cool. And the last time that we played, I got absolutely decimated. I will tell you. We essentially played a whole match of a Grand Slam to where we played 3 sets. I lost 6-0, 6-0, 6-1. That's how bad I got beat. So now I haven't played him since, but I've been playing more and more with my tennis group that I usually play with. And that way I'm hoping it's given me some good actual playing experience. I've played a few more matches since then, and now I'm back because we both found each other again. We're like, hey, let's play again. I was like, yes. So it'll be fun either way. I'm going to really, really, really hope and make sure that I don't get 6-0, 6-0, 6-1 again. I'm at least going to get 2 or 3 more games off of this man this time, and we're going from there. I'll give him a challenge, and I'll run him out. Let's see. Now, Levish, Ernest, get to talk. I'm currently driving at the moment, so what do you recommend for, because I am a recreational, he's one at backhand. What do you recommend for a 98 type of racket set? Let's see. Ernest, Ernest, I appreciate the fact that you're here. I will say, however, I don't necessarily want to be saying too much to where you will not be paying attention to the road. That is much more important for you to be doing right now. And I will tell you through the comments, the question, Ernest, he said that he thinks you should try the Head Prestige Pro. That one is definitely going to do well for the one-handed backhand, and that is going to be a very, very control-oriented racket. So it is going to be a little bit hard to use, especially for most players. I don't even know a lot of higher level players that really like using the Prestige, but it is there and it does well because it is very easy to glide through the air, especially on the one-handed backhand. So it may be something to demo, Ernest. I would say if you're looking for one, or if you're trying to think of one right now, just because I don't remember what exact racket you're playing with currently, Ernest, I would, especially for a beginner, look towards something like hold on, give me a second. I'm trying to think back to video I made entirely about this subject. Darn it. I would say probably some racket around a Wilson Blade 98 16x19 or even a Technofiber T-Fight 300S. I would say those may be ones to start to look at and to demo, Ernest, just to see what you think about those. If you really want a little bit more options to choose from, just because off the top of my head, without remembering what you're actually playing with, I would probably lean towards just going back onto my channel. There's an entire video I made about rackets to try if you have a one-handed backhand, and you can just kind of use that as a little bit more of a guide to see what racket you're using and then see what rackets I'm talking about that would be similar to that, or that would offer you something in terms of extra power, extra comfort, extra feel, extra spin, extra control that you're wanting to get, and kind of go from there in terms of what you would want to test. So that's what I would say, Ernest, especially just because you're driving right now. So please just pay attention to driving. Do not look at the chat. Do not look at me. Just drive, man. If you make it home by the time that the live stream ends, that's amazing. And then we can talk more, but please get home or wherever you're going safely. Big thing. Really big thing. All right. So, Ibrahim, good dude. Thanks. I don't have any answers. Just say hi. God bless you. Thanks, man. I appreciate that. It's time, bro. We need to talk. What do we need to talk about? You just said we need to talk. What do you want to talk about, bro? correct me when I say this, because I'm probably going to say it wrong. Hilario, what's up, bro? Do you know what quick action base clamps would be best for the Tourna 350 CS? Let me see. I'm going to look up that specific machine to make sure that I get it right. Tourna 350 CS. Oh, it's this one. Okay. Hilaria, with that machine, I would say that what are you in referencing to by quick action base clamps? Are you just saying that you want to replace the clamp with one that you can just press you can just press a button and then that unlocks the base and then it's pretty easy to move the clamp, or are you just wanting a different kind of clamp than what's on it? Because the clamps that are on it, they work just fine. And if you haven't had a problem with them, then I would just, and you just need new ones, I'd probably just look to get new ones of those, because then you automatically know that they're going to fit and work for the actual machine itself. But if you have something else going on, then I would need a little bit more context as to what you're looking for with, or what you're trying to accomplish with getting these new clamps. Okay, correct, button ones. Then I would say I personally really like the button clamps, or the press clamps, they might call them. I don't know the exact term for them. But if you look at Head and I think even Solinko's stringing machines, Solinko's I think is called the GT Falcon, and Head's is I think it's their Head Pro stringing machine. I really like those clamps just because I've used them before. I personally do prefer having the button ones as well, just because I think it's easier, and I think it's a lot just more, I won't say fast, but it's a lot better than having something else. I have used a Wilson Bayardo before with those clamps, and yes, it has the button, but I think the actual just like head ones that are circular, I think that's just a little bit easier. So I just tend to prefer that. So I would probably look to see if you could find either the clamps from a Head Pro stringing machine, which is the electronic one, or the clamps from a Solinko GT Falcon, as long as they have that same circle as well, just because those are what I have found personally to work well for me and to just work well on other machines. Let's see. The question, do I think the Head Prestige line will get removed? Yes. I think that I would think that Head is probably going to get rid of the Prestige, just because of how little in terms of popularity and numbers that it overall does nowadays, especially because they have so many racket lines. I think they do need to condense some, and the Prestige, while it's been around for a while, is essentially just the big one on the chopping block, because they already have, with the Prestige, 3 control frame rackets. 1 being the Prestige, 2 being the Radical, 3 being the Gravity. And with most of today's modern game, the Prestige kind of falls short of the Radical and the Gravity. It hasn't made as much of the improvements because it's still trying to give that classic feel that a lot of players that grew up with the Prestige or just have found from playing with it do tend to prefer. And that's where I think the line itself is probably going to go away as a whole. It may come back as like a heritage thing, to where like every so often they'll re-release a Prestige, kind of like they did with the Prestige 93 or the Prestige Mid, I think they called it. It was either last year, I think it was last year when they re-released that. They may do more stuff like that, would be my guess. But overall, I would say the Prestige is probably going to go. And if Head had to get rid of another racket line, it's probably going to be the Instinct, because that's still hanging around, but it's not as known, it's not as used. It got replaced by the Boom. So I would assume they would probably try and get rid of the Instinct too and kill the Instinct and the Prestige in the same swoop or at the same time in order to actually just kind of clean up their racket lines because they have so many going on right now. Cool. Kanako, what's up? Thank you for coming back. Hello. What kind of pre-string comes E-Zone? So that depends, Kanako, on what E-Zone you are looking to get. Most of the time, if a racket is coming pre-strung, at least from my experience, is typically a synthetic gut string that comes with it, unless the actual tennis manufacturer, like Yonex themselves, has sent a string to be put in a racket. But from what I've seen with all pre-strungs, well, I won't say all, but most pre-strungs, as well as most rackets ordered through Amazon, you're typically going to get a synthetic gut. So I know that with you were asking about velocity in the last live stream, especially for your kid. If they've never used the E-Zone, I think synthetic gut would be fine for them, just because it is going to just let them feel how the racket plays. But if you still want them to go with the multi-filament, just to keep their arms safe and to help give them a little bit more power, just because they're used to that, I believe you said that he was using NXT last time, but if you still wanted to just put velocity in there, it should just be fine. It should be just fine. The synthetic gut, it'll be a little bit harder on the arm than the actual NXT or the actual velocity, but it's not going to be an extremely harsh case, like as if you were putting him into a polyester string. That is not going to be the case here. The synthetic gut will be just fine if that's what does come in it, at least to give him a little bit of an experience with the racket and then kind of go from there. Hilario, gotcha. GT Falcon is a really nice machine. Thanks. You're welcome. I'm glad that that was able to actually help. And please tell me if I pronounced your name right. I'm curious, and I would like to know. I want to make sure that I'm actually, if I am talking to someone, I can get their name right. I want to make sure. So, if you could tell me if I got that right, or if I said it absolutely wrong and butchered it, how to say it properly, please do. Let's see. The question, I currently play with the Prestige Pro and been doing pretty well, but I've been thinking of switching to the Radical Pro for a little more free power. Would the Blade 98 be a better switch? So, Blade, Radical from a Prestige. And if you're looking for free power, the question, either of those would probably work. The Radical Pro, hold on. Prestige Pro, which version of the Prestige Pro? Meaning the head size, what's the head size and the string pattern? Because the Prestige line is notorious for changing the names and changing which version it is. So I want to make sure that I am thinking about the right specs before I tell you something different. Okay, 98, 18 by 20. Okay, cool. That works. So, with either of those, whether it be the Blade or the Radical Pro, you will get more power and spin, especially if you go to the 16 by 19 version. If you are wanting to stay with the 18 by 20, then it becomes a little bit harder because the Radical Pro 18 by 20 is a little bit harder to get and a little bit harder to find. I don't know if they made that in the new current version. I haven't seen it. I have just seen the older version with the orange and blue colorway, which was the last generation, I believe. So with that, if you go to the 16 by 19 version, that's definitely going to help increase the spin and the power, but you are going to lose some of the control. So no matter what you do, always demo these to make sure that this is actually going to work, rather than just going full on into the racket itself, and just buying it and not being able to return it, because of course, then you just kind of stuck with it if you hate it. We don't want that. We want you to actually like the racket. I would hope you want to like the racket. And then if there's other rackets to try or something else to switch out to that, then I would say that instead of the blade or the head, because you already know that the head feel is something you already like, then you may want to also consider something like the Technofiber T-Fight 305S, which is an 18 by 19. So it's a little bit more spin and power friendly, as well as being a 98 head size, to just see how that feels. T-Fights, in my opinion, tend to be a little bit more powerful from Technofiber rather than the TFX1s, which are the full power frame for them. So that would be one to try, as well as probably, if you can find one, the EZone 98. No, actually, no, don't scratch the EZone 98. I would say the, what is it? If anything, try the Pure Strike 18 by 20. The Pure Strike doesn't get a lot of love anymore just because it kind of fell by the wayside since it doesn't have any like big players in the pro tour, the pro scene right now. But it is still a Babolat racket, so it is still more of a power racket it is a control racket that is going to have a little bit more power just because it is from Babolat. So I think that would be a good one to test as well, to see the difference between the other rackets you're going to try, whether it be the Radical Pro, the Blade, or the T-Fight, like I mentioned, if you want to try that, and just to give you something different. So that, as long as you don't have arm issues or anything like that. Let's see. Hilario, cool. Thank you for saying that. Pierce and Davenport, do you have a chance to play Wilson rackets from the K Factor line? I potentially can. I think the only one I could is the potentially the 6195 18 by 20, which is essentially the K Factor 6195. So I can potentially get my hands on that one. I would just have to look to make sure. But besides that, I don't think I have access to anything else right now. But yes, so I would say that's probably those. Alex, how's the Blackout V2? It's wonderful. I greatly enjoyed the Blackout V2. I think Solinco did a very nice job with it, and it does very well. And I think it's something definitely I think it's definitely something more people should try, especially if they do want a power racket, just from how Solinco made it with the foam in order to make it a little bit easier on the arm compared to the old version. It does very nice. Kanako, my kid's a tournament. Should we go with the head velocity MLT than original pre-string? Kanako, if your kid has a tournament and you have not tried velocity and you have not tried the synthetic gut and they're just used to the NXT, then I think that it would probably be better to put the NXT in there because it's a tournament. You don't want your kid to be going through the entire time and not necessarily playing their best because they don't have their setup or their string. So I would say for their tournament, go with what they're used to, go with what they're familiar with. And then after the tournament, or if you know you have tournaments coming up back to back to back, try it during a slower season or at the beginning of a week, so that way he has enough time to play with it a few times to get adjusted and then decide whether or not to take that string to a tournament. If you have one this weekend, then I would probably just put NXT in there, especially if you're changing rackets, because we want something familiar for him. That way he's not having to change too many things all at once, or too many things are changing on him all at once to where he doesn't know what is actually working effectively for him. Ernest, hello. I'm off the road now, so currently I'm using the Vostra V8 as well as had the Extreme MP, and I'm looking at the Head Extreme Pro at the moment. If you liked the Extreme MP, Ernest, then I would say that the Extreme Pro is definitely going to be one that would be comparable, especially for a one-handed backhand since it has the 98 head size. The new Extreme Pros, because of the extra weight, not extra weight, but because they changed to have more of the weight in the actual head of the racket, that's where it can sometimes be a little bit hard to actually just use it effectively on the one-handed backhand. Some people love it. Some people absolutely hate it. So I think it's definitely one to try if that is something if you've used the Extreme MP before and you were cool with it, you liked it. But I think with the Extreme Pro, it's just something you got to test to see if it's going to work, just to make sure that it is just to make sure that it feels comfortable with your one-handed backhand and you feel confident with it. If you liked that one too, but since you're coming from the vocal and you maybe want it to be a little bit more arm friendly, Ernest, then you might also want to try the Boom Pro. It's also a 98 head size, and I actually know a guy that he was kind of struggling in the same position. He didn't use a vocal racket like you did, Ernest, but he was also one-handed backhand, and he was just in the process of demoing rackets forever because he's like, man, I don't know what I want to get. And he was just trying a bunch of things. And I'm just like, dude, try this. It's the Boom Pro. I know you said you didn't want to try Power Racket, but trust me, just try it. And he's like, okay, fine. So he did try it, and he was actually greatly surprised at the results he got. The racket in the demo, I think, it was a Boom Pro with Solinco Hyper G, and he was already using Vocal Cyclone as his string, so it was still a polyester designed to help with spin. It wasn't as much as Cyclone, but he was fairly impressed with how the Boom Pro did for his one-handed backhand as well as just playability all around. So if you like the feel of head rackets, Ernest, then I think the Boom Pro would probably be one for you to try too. It's a little bit of the sleeper pick. Not as many people would probably say that, but if you're going to try rackets, I think it's definitely one to throw in there. The question, I used to play with the old Battle Lab Pure Control, but it got discontinued, then tried the Pure Strike and absolutely hated it. That's fair. I can't fault you there. So with that, yeah, the question I would probably say the T-Fight 305S, just to see if you like an 18 by 19 string pattern, see how that does for you. And then actually, if you can find one, the Solinco Whiteout 18 by 20, it's version 1, but if you can find a demo of it, that may be one to try too, just to give you a little bit more of that power. It is going to be a little bit stiffer and a little bit harder on the arm. So if you don't want to do that, completely fine. I get it. But if you can find one, that might be one to try. And then after that, there's also the TF40 18 by 20 from Tecnifibre as well. I know I'm saying Tecnifibre a lot here, but they do actually have pretty good rackets in my opinion, especially for them being foam filled, so that way it can just decrease some of the shock and vibration before it gets back to you. That may be a way to go too if you're wanting the new racket to still feel closer to your Prestige, because in my opinion, the TF40 versus the T-Fight, TF40 is the much more control-oriented racket. The T-Fight, still being a control racket, is a little bit more powerful in my opinion. So I would say those would be ones to try as well if you don't want to throw the Pure Strike in there just because you tried it before and you're like, not for me, which completely get. All right, Hilario, which do you prefer, Whiteout V2 or Blackout V2, both 16 by 19? Hilario, I actually, weirdly enough, prefer the Blackout. Now, I did not think I would like that. I did not think I would like the Blackout V2 as much as I did. This is probably one of my favorite rackets that came out this year, even though there was a lot that came out this year in terms of the E-Zone, the Tecnifibre, the Clash, the Ultra, the what else? The new Pure Drive. There was the new Gravity. There's another new racket coming out next month in November, which that should be the last one finally. And then what else was it? There's the new Dunlop SX300. There was a lot that came out this year, but yeah, I personally prefer the Blackout 300 V2 16 by 19 versus the Whiteout 305 16 by 19. Never thought I would say that just because I typically use a lot more control-oriented frames right now. But this power racket, the Blackout V2, very, very nice racket for me. It just works out very well. I really liked it. Cool. And then Kanaka, thank you so much for your help, of course. Glad to do it. Hopefully he has good luck with this tournament this coming weekend. He wins, brings it home. Cool. All right. Anyone else got anything? Ah, yes. Hilario, I'm also going to be using that blackout tonight for my match. That's how much I did like it. Because usually, if I do a review on a racket or shoes or something like that, as soon as the review's done, then I'm pretty much not really going to play with it as much, just because I know what it's going to do, and I have my other rackets that I like to play with or I like using. But now that I have the blackout and I have the option to, I'm gonna use that. It works out well. I'm gonna see how it does in the match tonight. If it does extremely well, who knows? Maybe I have to switch to the Solinco blackout from finally making a decision earlier this year. Excuse me. What am I saying earlier this year? Finally making a decision a few months ago about what racket to actually use. So we'll see. We'll see. Ernest, thank you for the recommendations. What about the Wilson Ultra 99? Is that considered like a power spin friendly racket? Yes. The Ultra Pro 99, that one is going to be a spin and power friendly racket, especially since it's just the old Steam racket that Wilson made, which if I'm not wrong, the Steam used to just be the spin racket for Wilson until they replaced it, because I want to say the Steam was the spin racket, and then they also had the Wilson Juice about the same time, but the Juice was the power racket, because the Juice eventually turned into the Ultra, which is their power racket now. And then the Steam, it kind of left for a while, and then there was the Burn, which also a spin racket, but not as popular. And then there's now the Shift. So, with the 99 head size, I think it is going to be a very, very easy way for you to actually use it on your one-handed backhand, especially because I think it is a little bit more weighted towards the handle, or a little bit more head light. And then you can go from there, Ernest, in order just to see what you think about it. It's not like it's extremely heavy either. I know one guy that he switched from using a VCore 98 to the Ultra Pro 99 almost as soon as he touched the racket with a tennis ball. So he was like, I like this that much, I'm a switch, and he bought 2 of them. So if you can get a demo, I would throw it in there just to see what you think. Let's see. Hilaria, good luck with that match. Thank you. I'm coming from a whiteout V1, but wanted to try the new blackout. Looks real nice too. Yeah, I like it. I think it's definitely one to try. If you're coming from the whiteout V1, did you try the whiteout V2 or no? Because if you tried that and you liked it, if you like that, you may or may not like the blackout, just because of how different the two are supposed to play. But we'll see. You gotta try it, and then you gotta let me know what you think about it. Moon Song, do something cool, entertain us. Hey, this is here for education, not entertainment. If you can be entertained by me talking about tennis gear and everything, then there's your entertainment. What can I say? Kenneth, using percentages, how much of a difference does changing your racket and strings make? So with that, I'd say that changing your rackets and strings in terms of your overall playing ability, that is probably combining the two 50% of, in my opinion, it's probably about 50% of what's going on. The other 50% is the actual physical conditioning, the training, and the training that you go through. Your racket and strings are going to be everything that touches the ball. So your technique comes into play, your actual physicality comes into play, what you're able to handle in terms of racket and string for your body specifically comes into play. So without a proper racket and without proper strings, it becomes very hard and very easy to not have fun playing tennis at all. It is going to be potentially harmful to you, which we don't want. We don't want you to get tennis elbow. Now, that can also be a factor of both the equipment you're using as well as a factor of the technique you're using. If you don't have proper technique and you're potentially hitting the ball kind of like this, or you just can't really actually move your arm in the correct position, that's when it is going to be a little bit more. You have to get the mechanics right in order to actually work out properly. So with the actual rackets and the strings, this is going to be much more prominent in helping eliminate as many factors from hurting you, and just as much as we possibly can. If you get the wrong racket, if you get the wrong strings, yes, it is easier to change them just because we can always restring a racket or we can always try a different one. But if you do get them right, you can have a grand old time and have a lot more fun just because everything feels smooth, everything feels nice. And that's why I say it's about half the battle. You have to be able to play with this consistently, not get tired, and just not get hurt. And if we can accomplish that goal, everything's going to work out pretty great. Then it's just the physical side, which you can work a little bit more. You have to do a little bit more work on and a little bit more work with, because that one's more on you, just because no one can do that part for you. You can have a lot of other people just tell you what strings and what racket to use. You still have to technically use them effectively, but everything you physically do, that's on you. So that's why I say it's about 50-50, and I hope that helps, Kenneth. All right, Ernest, thank you for the recommendation. What do you think about the Wilson Ultra 99? I think the RA is, around 67 or 69. I know it's a spin-friendly racket. I think the Ultra Pro is fun to use. I'm probably going to demo the Wilson Ultra 99. Okay. Ernest, thank you for the kind words about the match. Hopefully we get them. And yeah, if you're going to try it, do it. That's the beauty of the demo program. You get to try things you may not have ever done before and just get to see what you like, what you don't like. So let me know how it goes, Ernest, as well as what other rackets you try, whether you try the Extreme Pro or you try a few others. I would definitely, like I said, maybe take a look at my video I did on rackets to try if you have a one-handed backhand, just to see what you think. The Ultra Pro isn't on it because it was not released yet, or it wasn't. Yeah, I don't think it was released yet when I made the video. So definitely take a look at that, see what you think. If you don't want to watch the whole video, which if you do, that'd be pretty cool. If you don't, I get it. You should probably be able to scroll to the end of the video or around the end and then just see the board filled with the list of the rackets rather than just having me go through them one by one. But if you want the explanations for the rackets, then I would watch the video from beginning to end, just to be safe. But let me know what you demo and let me know what you think, Ernest. Hilario, I haven't tried the V2 wideout, but I'm on a winning streak with the E798, just a racket hoarder at this point. Dude, I'm a racket hoarder too. I actually have some of my collection right over there, that way in this room. So let's take a trip down my racket collection. Let's see what I got. I'll be right back in a second. Let's see. All right. So these are some of the rackets I have. Very much a racket hoarder myself. This is not all of them. This was about half, if not a little under the half of the stash I have that is just in this room. And this does not count or include any of the rackets that I have in my tennis bag. That is almost full too. Actually, it's a little bit it's less than full, but it's a 15-pack bag because I got a great deal on it. And I think it's about, I think I have like nine rackets, maybe 10 in there. So a lot of bag, a lot of rackets, but yes, I got quite a array in the collection. I got, where'd the other one go? I have a lot of Dunlop, old Dunlop SX 300s. The three of them, not these three, not all three of these, but I have a lot of Dunlop SX 300 tours. I got a great deal on these. Very, very much liked these. They were kind of a weird spin racket because the actual string spacing on them is a lot closer than what a normal spin racket is. The strings are usually a lot more open, but Dunlop was trying to be a little bit more control oriented with these spin rackets. So it was a weird mix between them, but hey, I got a good deal on it, so I wasn't going to complain. I just took them and ran with them. And if you watch some of my old videos, especially my old string reviews, you'll see those rackets pop up because since I had so many, that's what I used to test with. So they're always going to be fun and be around. And we got the new Diadem Axis 100. This one, very, very fun to play with. It's pretty much just a pure arrow, but Diadem's version, so it's a little bit easier on the arm. Fun to hit with. Old Dunlop CX200 LS. This one was actually gifted to me by a friend that had moved on from his Dunlop rackets to the Wilson Blade, so he gave me this, and I was like, thank you, I appreciate that, because he was never going to use it again. Then we got Blackout V1. Reviewed this. This was fun. Like I said, V2 is more for me. That's just me, though. Old Headspeed Pro, which was the Graphene 360, not the 360 Plus, so quite an older version of it. I've always enjoyed the Speed Pros just because they're 100 square inch head sizes and 18 by 20s, which you don't see as much, but I liked the extra power that the 100 square inch head size gave me and the little bit extra kind of like leeway. And if I had an off-center shot because of the bigger head size being a little bit more helpful for me. And that's why I just like the Speed Pros. I like this. I like it. That's just me. Then we got two Clashes. We got Clash 100 Pro. We got Clash 100. These are the only two rackets I believe that I have that are stenciled. And that is not because I put the stencil on them, but because they came with the stencils on them. And yeah, Clash does very well. I'm so glad that they went back and made these more towards version 1 than version 2. Version 2 was kind of a weird Clash time because if you liked version 1, then you tried version 2, you pretty much hated it. You didn't have a lot of stuff going on or going right with it. But version 3, this one is a lot closer to version 1. So all the people that loved the Clash initially, they're like, all right, it's a little bit more manageable now. Could probably go back to it. Potentially. And then the old Ultra Tour, the 97 18 by 20. And yes, the strings look like that they're smiling at you because this same setup has been in this racket for many, many years. I have not done the due diligence of actually taking these strings out, which I should, and it is not good. I would not hit with this thing right now. If I cut the strings out and put new ones in, I definitely hit with it. It's fun to play with. It really is. And I think it's one of the sickest looking paint jobs that has been out for a while. I just like the colors of it. But I would not play with this right now because of how long those strings have been in there. Not a good time. Even though those yellow strings were natural gut. It's not worth it. But that's some of my racket collection. Some of it. Not counting what's in my bag, what's still on the wall, as well as all the rackets that I've bought or my dad has bought and that are in his bag. So we got a lot. We got a lot. Now I know I was just rambling about rackets for quite a while, and that's kind of the point of this thing. But does anyone else have any more questions about racket gear or anything going on? Anything they just, or any tennis topics they just want to discuss? I don't know about ears because I can't listen to you say it, but I'm all eyes. I can read the actual comment section and see what we want to talk about. All right, those are moved out of the way. Oh no! Don't fall, camera. Please don't. I don't want to buy a new one. Hilario, any word about Slinko Confidential pink string? Not really. Are they doing that? Where did you hear about that? That'd be cool. Did someone in like a Tennis Warehouse forum just be like, guys, you won't believe what's happening? I could see that happening. Someone just sounds the alarm in the Tennis Warehouse forums or anything, and it's just like, man, I don't know. Pink is an interesting color though, because there's not too many pink strings that are out there right now. There's Tourmaline. Which one is the Tourmaline one? Is it? I think it's Toro's the pink one, and then besides that, it's just kind of synthetic guts that are pink. If I'm not wrong, I know Dunlop synthetic gut is pink, and Wilson, I think, used to have a pink synthetic gut if they don't still make it. So I think if they do make a pink one, it's definitely gonna have a place in the market just because it is going to at least. Huh? Maybe I said too much, but Slingo gave me a test string to try out. They gave you a test string to try out. Hilario, you better hope this doesn't become the most viewed and talked about actual live stream in the whole entire tennis community. Because if they gave you a test pack and you just blurted that out to the entire tennis world, what are they going to think? What are they gonna think, Hilario? But how'd you get a test pack, bro? That sounds cool. Nice. Well, he comes up with an answer to type to that. Anyone else got anything? Because I'm cool to just chill here for a bit. Like I said, I don't have to leave until, well, I don't have to be at my match until 8:30. So I got, how much time do I got? I still got like half an hour till I have to leave. So if anyone's got anything, let's talk. You do string and was able to get a discount with them, so they gave me a sample pack. Okay, cool. Fair enough. See, I like Confidential as a string itself, but to me, it just It died. No, not the fact that it died fast. It was the fact that it took forever to break in. So I would have to play with Confidential for at least 4 to 5, maybe even 4 to 6 hours for it to settle in and actually just work how I wanted it to. And then after that, when I was playing with it, started to notice the decrease or like the drop in play for me at about hour hours 10 to 12. So I was like, if this string takes me half of the time of using it to just not to just break it in to play how I want it to play, I get one, maybe two good sessions out of it, and then I start to lose the playability from it. I'm just like, man, that's not what I want at all. So, Confidential, it plays well, it plays nice. But for me, I just don't want to go through the waiting process of having to break it in and then have to restring it as often as that. You think that they're working on okay? How are the GJ? How are the Nike Vapor Pro 12s as a shoe, or more specifically, a clay court shoe for a 4.5 player? That GJ would depend more upon what shoe you're already wearing right now, whether as well as what your foot needs in terms of width. Because if you have a wide foot, then I would probably just stay away from Nike in general. Or if you prefer a more wider fitting feel, I would probably just stay away from Nike in general. If you're playing with them on clay and you get the clay specific version, that can be fine, and that's usually not going to cause too much of an issue. They're very lightweight, so it's very easy to move. They're not, but because of that, they're not going to be very durable. So if you want a shoe that's going to last you a little bit longer, now since you're on clay, the tread isn't going to wear down as fast as if it would on a hard court version. But if you want the shoe to last in terms of with all the sliding, or if you break shoes constantly because you're just a little bit rougher on your shoes, then the Nike Vapor Pro 12s may not be the one to go with unless you're okay with paying for them a little bit more often just because you go through them as much. But again, it all depends on what your foot feels most comfortable in, because if you need a wide or a wider fit, the Nike is just going to be scrunching you and it's not actually going to work out too well from what I've seen. So, what shoe are you wearing right now that you typically play in that you like? Thanks. I had the ons, but they hurt my feet. Okay. Yeah, ons to me, weirdly enough, I always felt that whenever I had the ons on, funny, but whenever I had those actually on my feet, I always felt that they were kind of narrow too. But that's just me. I've heard that ons do tend to be a little bit more of a standard width or a standard fit. But if you're comparing the on to the Nike, I'd say the Nike is probably more narrow and even and depending upon which on you had, less cushion than the ons. So that's where I'd say, like, if you're going to use it, if you're going to try and get a new shoe, the Nike Vapor Pro 12 for your situation, GJ, may not actually be the one to go with in order to get what you're wanting in order to get what you're wanting out of the shoe, which it sounds like you're trying to make sure that your feet are comfortable and that you actually have a shoe that will work for you rather than focus on like looks or paying for the name brand, which I think is what we should all do, is just focus on function over form. What do you suggest then? Okay. So in order for me to suggest a shoe, then you gotta give me a little bit of context here, GJ, in terms of what I'm looking for. Do you need a wide fitting shoe, or would you just prefer a little bit more space inside your shoe? Because being on clay, your options do start to get a little bit more limited, but you can usually still find something that's going to work. But I'm gonna need some background context on you before I can say anything. Oh, he's thinking. He's thinking, he's typing. I can't see if he's typing, but he's definitely doing it. Hmm. That's a what? Weak ankles. Okay. Okay, what else? That I asked, what's the do you need a little bit more room inside this shoe for your toes, or do you think that you I would assume we don't need a narrow fit. Uh ugly toes. No. Do you need the shoe to be a wider fit to give your toes more room to move around inside the shoe? GJ? Wider. Okay, cool. So we need to look more towards a wider fit. And then do you need to go to have you ever needed to go to an actual wide width shoe? Whether that be a 2E, a 4E, or just in any shoe, not just for tennis. Okay, cool. So we just need a wider fit in a shoe. And then other question, do you tend to have flat feet, or do you have or what's going on with the arch of your foot? More flat. Okay. Cool. So, do they make this in a clay? If they do, this one. Hold on. I'm checking to see if they the shoe that immediately came to mind, I have to see if they make a clay version of. If they do, then these would probably be the ones I would say to try. And then let's see. In case can't give it away yet. Where is it? Where is it? Where is it? They do make it in a clay. Okay, that's one. And I'm trying to get you a few different options, GJ, to that way you can try and make sure. That way you can try all of these on to see which one you think is going to work best for you. Whoops, wrong one. Not that one. Wave. Okay, cool. That one. Okay, and then other than that, going for a wider fit with clay. Let's see. What else do they make in that style? Oh, do they make? No, they don't. Okay. Cool. All right, GJ. So there's two that came to mind with having a little bit more of a flat feet, weak ankles, and wanting a little bit more of a wider fit. I would say that two to try. Don't go out and just buy these unless you're just going to try them in your house and just to walk around and see how they feel on first. Because if you wear these outside on court, or if you don't do any, or if you do any of that, and then you actually play in them, you typically can't return them. So if you do end up going with one of these shoes, definitely wear it in the house for at least an hour first before you do anything, just so that way that's going to let the shoe kind of form to your foot a little bit more. Make sure that you can actually feel comfortable in them, that they're not squishing your toes, they're not squishing your feet. And then you can, if you feel comfortable, then you can potentially go with one of them, but you also have to make sure you get the right size as well. So the two shoes that I came up with were, one is from Mizuno, one is from K-Swiss. Now, the Mizuno one, this is the Wave Enforce Tour, and that is going to be, excuse me. The Wave Enforce Tour is going to be the one that's probably a little bit better suited to you being flat-footed, just because there's not really a break in the actual shoe for an arch to come up. So that's where that one came in. It's also probably not going to be as much of a wide fit as the other one that I'm going to say, but it is still they do still make a clay version of it. And I think it would definitely be one to try, just so that way you can see what feels comfortable in that shoe. After that, or at the same time, either way, the other shoe that came to mind is the K-Swiss UltraShot 4. With the K-Swiss UltraShot 4, this one is probably going to be a little bit heavier than the Enforce Tour, but it is also going to be quite a bit more stable. So that's, and K-Swiss as a brand just tends to be a little bit wider fitting in general, from my experience with it, as well as just fitting a lot of people and putting them in a lot of K-Swiss shoes. So I would say those two would be the ones I would probably lean towards, just because those I personally have had success with, and people trying both the normal versions of them, majorly the normal versions of them for the hard courts, but they really don't change the fit pretty much of a shoe once they transition to clay court. They really just change the tread. So that's why I think those two would probably be the first. Those two would probably be the first ones I would look at, and then kind of go from there. So definitely with either of them, depending upon what you feel comfortable in and how the shoe is fitting. With the Wave Enforce Tour, this one is a little bit more weird. So whatever size you would normally get, I would say try that first, and then also be sure to lace that shoe up specifically to the last lace hole that is in the shoe. I have a pair, which, let me see if I can. Oh no, they're in my car. So I have a pair of those in the hardcourt version, and I personally cannot wear them in terms of, I personally can't wear them confidently if I don't have that last lace hole, because to me they felt that they've kind of ran a little long. So if you tie the Enforce Tour up to the last lace hole and you don't feel secure or safe in the shoe, then it may be wise to try on a half size down, because that has worked for one of my other friends that also wears the Enforce Tour as his main shoe. He felt by going half size down, it worked a lot better for him. It was still as stable. He didn't have to necessarily use the last hole, the last shoelace hole in order to actually tighten it around his ankle to keep him secure. So I think if you try the normal version first, that still doesn't feel as comfortable, or you don't feel as confident in that, then it would be okay to go down a half size to try, just to see if that works a little bit better for you. And then with the UltraShot 4, that one, they don't make, that one's pretty much just a standard fit and a standard size. So if that works, great. Both of these are going to be a little bit of a heavier shoe, so they are going to be much more cushioned. They're going to be a little bit more comfortable for most people, just because of the extra cushion, but they are going to be heavy. So that's kind of the trade-off you have to make, as well as they also are going to be a lot more supportive and to try and help protect your ankles, which you said were a little bit more weak. And that's why those two came to mind first, because I did check to make sure that they do make clay court versions of them somewhere in this world. So, GJ, hope that helps. Hope that answers the questions. You're welcome for the advice. And so with that, definitely let me know what you end up going with. And yeah, thank you for the question, GJ. All right. Now, JH, I saw this in there. I saw your comment. Don't think I didn't, but I will answer. Ernest, I saw yours too. Yours was first, so I'm gonna answer you first. Who do I think will win their first Grand Slam between Fritz, Shelton, Tiafoe, or Paul? That is a fun question. I'd say, in my opinion, the two that have probably the highest potential. Well, the one that has the highest potential, I'd say, is Fritz, because he's actually made it to a slam final. The others have not. They've all gone very far. They've all gone very deep, and I really want one of them to win a Grand Slam because I want to just see an American win a Grand Slam while I'm alive again. I think we're due. But I think Fritz has. I think of the four, Fritz is probably going to be the one that would, in my opinion, win first, just because he's shown that he can play up to that level. He can make it to the Grand Slam finals. And then after that, I would probably say, if I had to pick a second, it would be probably Shelton, just because with how easy Shelton can win service games based off of his serve alone. I think as long as that is a reliable weapon, and with him being left-handed, he's the opposite to a lot of other players, and that may give him a little bit more of an advantage. So I think for me, Fritz would be probably number one in that list, and then Shelton, and then Tiafoe or Paul. I think it's kind of a little bit of a toss-up. I'm not entirely sure about those two, just because I've seen. I have not seen much of Tommy Paul play. I've seen like some of him here and there on the TV. But Tiafoe, I have been lucky enough to see live. He's a very, very good player. I would love to see either one of those guys win. I just think that Fritz or Shelton right now have the best chance between the four of them. That's my opinion. And then JH, which strings would I consider for best for the pure drive? I still can't decide which one I should use. Okay. So pure drive, JH. If we're trying to decide on string, what string have you liked in the past? That there are certain things I cannot just answer with a basic this is the racket I have. What string should I use? So what have you tried in there? What do you think? And what do you want the strings to help you with? Jeez, I don't know why I was not able to speak that. That was weird. I am out of water. Great. I hope JH is still here and that he didn't just leave. That wouldn't be fun. That's cool. But while we wait for JH's response, oh, there it is. I would like a string that doesn't snap that quickly, and it also has some spin. What strings have you used already, JH? Because if I don't know what you're snapping, I can't really say if something's going to snap more quick or anything, or less quick. So what have we been using in your pure drive? While JH thinks about that, what have we thought about the live stream this way? Usually I'm just live streaming while actually stringing my rackets or anything. But I figured since I had the time today that I would just pop on, answer questions. What do we think? Continue to do it? Maybe just save it for the stringing days, or what do we think, guys and gals? If you're watching, what do we think? Okay. Tried ALU Power RPM Blast with Gut Hybrid, which I really liked. Confidential and Hyper G. Okay. How long did, if you did the RPM Blast with Gut Hybrid, how long did that take for you to, how long did that take for you to break? Some others which are similar, okay. Six days. How long does it take you to break a full bed of poly? That doesn't have to be a specific one, just any of them. Like rough guess, you play with a fresh racket of polyester strings. How long does it usually take you to break that? Around 8, yeah. Have you ever had any arm issues like tennis elbow or anything like that? Me, just from playing or in general. Sometimes a bit more. Okay. Have you ever had any like wrist injuries or shoulder issues or anything since you've been playing or before you've been playing? Okay. So if you're the thing with polys, and if you're breaking I had an elbow surgery. When did you have the elbow injury? More than 4 years ago. Okay. So if you've still been playing since then, it's probably not affecting you as much. Then if you're breaking poly in about 8 days in a full bed, there's not necessarily one that's going to last much longer than that just because of how much spin you're putting onto the ball. If you really want, now, granted, I don't know your racket, I don't know your tension, so this is just going off the top of my head. If you want something that's going to last a little bit longer than that, you would just at that point have to change the gauge that you're using. So if you're using like use 51, okay. So if you're using strings at, say, with ALU Power, it's usually a 1.25 gauge for their standard one, which was 16L, or sometimes even a company's 16L or 17 gauge string. If you're using those, that's what you have used throughout all of these, then the next logical option in my head would just be to go to a thicker gauge, 16 gauge. Okay. Then did you ever try, well, you said, did you ever try RPM Blast or Slinko Torbite as a full set just on its own in the 16 gauge? Okay. Both of them or just one of them? Okay. I would say with that, then if you've tried both of those and you are looking specifically to just get a string that is going to last longer and not break as quickly, then it would probably be something to look into of either RPM Blast 15L or Torbite 15L, because I know they make it in a 15L. So those will last longer, but they are also going to be a little bit harder on your arm. So if that's why I asked about tennis elbow or those injuries. If you've had anything like that recently, then I probably would stay away from them, and you may just have to accept the fact that you're so good at this game with all of your tennis that you just break the strings that often because you just use that much spin and you're a spin monster. I personally am not, but if you are, that's amazing. But those are pretty much kind of the options you have to look at in terms of if you're wanting something just more durable, but there's the trade-off, like you said, the bad thing of them being a little bit harder on you. So if you do end up going with them, since Pure Drive is already stiff racket, I think it would break my elbow. Yeah. And that's where I'm surprised that with the Pure Drive that you are breaking it that much. If anything, um which Pure Drive are you using? Is the normal one or is it? Yeah, which Pure Drive are you using? The new Are you using the 100 or are you using the 98? Okay. 160 minutes. Okay, cool. Then if you're using that one, have you probably just got that racket. Have you ever tried the 98 version? Okay. If you get the chance, JH, try the 98 version of the new Pure Drive just because with that racket being a 16 by 20 string pattern, it is going to limit the string movement a little bit more. So that way it may help to increase the life of your strings and still give you a very similar feel to the actual regular Pure Drive 100 that you do have. And so with that, it may be something to try there just to see if that does help the life of them. If not, then potentially you may want to try other control rackets. I'm not saying to buy a brand new racket, just demo them, see what you think to see if the feel of these is good for you, and then potentially later on if you want to switch to a racket that doesn't allow the strings to move as much, which is what is going to break, which is what is causing them to break from all the spin you're putting on, then that may be one way to go after you've done a few demos. But I would see if you could try the 98 version just to get an idea of what that may start to feel like and kind of go from there. If you just want to stick with the 116 by 19, then I think at this point, and unless you go to the 15Ls and maybe lower the tension with that too to try and make them a little bit more loose to not kill your arm or elbow like you mentioned, well, break your elbow, then that's probably where it would probably be a little bit. If you drop the tension and increase the gauge, that may be a way to counterbalance it. If not, then you may just have to make sure that you always have a few rackets strung up because you just know you're going to break them. Great advice. I'll be trying the 98, and also is the 18 by 20 a good option? Yes, 18 by 20 is a good option if you are not wanting to break strings as often because the strings are not able to move. I know the Pure Drive does not make an 18 by 20. They only make this 98, which is the 16 by 20. But other 18 by 20 rackets, they will help to decrease strings breaking just because the strings aren't moving as much. That you are going to have a much different feel though, and that's definitely why I will always say to demo the rackets first, no matter what, because you don't want to just get a racket, end up and find out that it is not going to work for you because it is just not for your play style. So definitely demo go from there, see what you think. Let me know what you think next time that you catch me on one of the lives, and let me know how it goes, JH. Santiago, what's up, boss? What do you need the opinion on? You're welcome, JH. No, you're asking the wrong guy, bro. I'm a tennis expert. I don't know what you're I am not the guy to ask about that. You could still try, but I am currently a single person, so I'm currently a single person, so I don't know what advice you think I could give on anything like that. That is not an area of expertise that I am in at all. I have no clue who that is. I've never heard. Yeesh. You know, usually when someone says, "Look this up," it's nothing bad, trust me. That usually doesn't end up leading to good things. Hold on. Before I look this person up, what is the actual question going to be? I seem chill. You wouldn't do that to me. I appreciate you saying you wouldn't do that to me. I still want to know what the question's going to be about before I even look up this person. What the? If you're just asking for thoughts on her looks, I don't know why you would ask me. That's all subjective, bro. I what someone fi- what someone has what someone is attracted to is different per person. So it's like, why are you asking me? She has a tennis player's physique. I like how that's the correlation that brought you here. Let's see. All right, I'll look her up. What was her name? Hold on. Hold on. What? Spelled it wrong. All right. She does have a. I mean, she looks attractive to me, I would say, but yeah. Tennis player physique. I don't. What would you say is the tennis player physique? Because we're all different. You have Rafa, and we'll just use the guys as example. You have Rafa on the extreme end, and then you have like Medvedev or who is it? John Isner on the other end. In terms of just like height and length, height and a little bit of like lankiness, or Sinner's got height on him too, but not as much muscle as Rafa. Madling. As a tennis fan, then, who would I say is the most attractive tennis player? For me, I would probably say it is. For me, I would probably say Sakari, but that's just me. Raducanu. Hold on. Wait a minute. Okay. Yeah. I know. I know her. I'm like, I just don't. I just have not watched a lot of her matches. I know of her. Hold on. No. YK, not cool. No. I said who I thought was the most attractive player, and I gave you my answer. And you all heard me. Novak is the GOAT though. Statistically, Novak is, yes. I was kind of really hoping he would win that 20. I was kind of really hoping he would win that 25th slam just to say that he did it, and then it is not at all of not it is not at all just something for debate. But oh well, he didn't win that one. Maybe he wins one more. We don't know. We'll see. I think I didn't get to watch all of it, but his podcast with Jay Shetty, I think that was interesting to listen to from the bits I have heard. But yeah, it was interesting. I think Novak is an amazing player, and you cannot deny that. All right. I can answer these last two questions, but then I have to go. I have to get to my match, and I got quite a drive ahead of me. So this stream will be ending here shortly. That loud noise you heard, and that probably was not nice to your ears. That was my alarm to get going. But Novak's go. What do you think of men's tennis versus women's tennis? I feel like men's tennis is dominated by a few individuals, whereas women's more open. Yeah, I feel like that's kind of been. I feel like that's kind of been how it has been for a while. Like back when Serena was playing, it was almost always dominated by Serena. But now, actually, no. There's pretty much a lot of just domination on the women's side too, just like the men's. Like the men's, it's pretty much if they're in the tournament, you are pretty much thinking or no almost going into it knowing Alcaraz and Sinner are going to win. Now it's pretty much just like if these two are in the tournament, depending on the surface, of course, you pretty much almost have a shoe-in win with Sabalenka and Swiatek. However, I'd say that there's probably more chance of an upset in the women's. But Alcaraz and Sinner, those two almost only get beat by the other two. So it is very, very hard for the other guys, from what I've seen, to come through and actually beat them. Whereas with the women's tour, there's a little bit more. That seems like there's a little bit more chance, or just a little bit better. Yeah, there's just a little bit more chance for others to win Grand Slams and actually take the titles from Sabalenka or Swiatek. Tennis baseline. This will be the last question I answer before I head out. What do you think about Pro Kenix tennis? I think Pro Kenix is great in terms of being easy on the arm. I've only got to hit with one Pro Kenix racket. I would like to hit with more, and actually do a review on at least some of them. But Santiago, why are you retracting all of your messages? Anyway. Hold on. Yeah, I think Pro Kenix does well, and I think that it would be fun to play with. The only time I've ever actually played with the Pro Kenix racket, my friend had just bought one, and he had strung Black Widow in there because we were trying to really test how harsh this could be. But yeah, he put Black Widow in there at 60 pounds, which is a very hard on the arm string. And then, even though it did not, and then it was a little bit Hold on. Yeah, we were playing with it. It really did not feel as if it was going to hurt our arm or anything. We just were going with it, and we are like, okay, all right, this actually does pretty good. So I think about Procanix Tennis, I think it does very nice. I think I would love to review it here on the channel. I have not gotten to try one as of recently. This was a few years ago. But yeah, that's what I got to say about Procanix. Thank you all for everyone that came out to the stream today. I greatly appreciate it. I hope I answered your questions. Hope you all got some good information about it. Hilario, thank you so much. We're gonna work on getting that dub. All right. Thank you all for being here. And as always, take care.